Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Now here is a prayer before the start of the Yoga Vasishtha. Let me explain the Yoga Vasishtha a little bit in the beginning before we go into the reading. But first the prayer. Okay, this prayer is specially meant for the Yoga Vasishtha. First, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Tat Sat Om. And now the prayer. Yata Sarvani Bhutani Pratibhanti Stitani Cha. I explain, not going to be in Sanskrit. Yatrai avo apashmam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha, which means salutations. I bow down to that reality in which all the elements and all the inanimate and animate beings shine as if they have an independent existence, as if in which they exist for a time and into which they merge at the end. Second line. Jnata jnanam tatha jnayam drashta darshana drishyahu karta hetu kriya yasmat tasmai jnana atmane namaha. Nothing to do with Kriya Yoga, okay? Kriya simply means practice, work, movement. So it means salutations to that consciousness, which is the source of the three divisions of knower, known and knowledge. Rather, in this mantra, threefold divisions of knower, knowledge and known. Seer, one who sees. Sight and what is seen. Doer, doing and the deed done. I bow down and salute that consciousness which is the source of all this. Please understand, it's a serious text. Okay? It's not something to be... In fact, I tried many times to convince people that it may not be meant for you. But then everybody is interested. They hear yoga and they hear Vasishtha. So you'll slowly go into this. On the other hand, who knows, somebody may be so qualified that they will listen to it for 3 days and everything will be over. Who knows? Can't say what people carry from their past. Right? And then the third part of the prayer. Spuranti Shikara Yasma Anandasya Ambare Avanau Sarvesham Jivanam Tasmai Brahmanandatmane Namaha. I bow down, I salute that bliss absolute, the ocean of bliss, which is the life of all beings, whose happiness and unfoldment are derived from the shower of spray from that ocean of bliss. This is the prayer. So please, from this you understand that we are dealing only specifically with the understanding of the truth as against that which appears as the truth but is not the truth. This is the Yoga Vasishtha. Now this is interesting. As we read along, you will see that this is something that was taught to the great Rama when he was depressed. Can you imagine? Rama is depressed and Vasishtha is teaching him. So I'll go through a little bit of an introduction to get you some idea. Swami Venkatesananda, whom I used to know much so, was very long ago when I was very young, has written this beautifully. So I want you to dwell a little bit on the introduction. And I also don't think we will be able to finish the Yoga Vasishtha in its entirety. It's impossible. We'll go as far as we can. I'll give you 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. We'll see how much we can do, morning and evening. Okay. This is a short introduction, I thought, since many of you may not be familiar with the Yoga Vasishtha. I'm not unhappy about that, nor happy about it. We should go through this. Scholars speculate about the author of this monumental scripture and such other academic matters. Swamiji says, may God bless them with success. The Yoga Vasishtha is the greatest help to the spiritual awakening and the direct experience of the truth. May I go slowly like this? Okay. This is certain. If this is what you want, you are welcome to the Yoga Vasishtha. What is it that you want? It is the greatest help to the spiritual awakening and the direct experience of the truth. If this is what you want, you are welcome to Yoga Vasishtha. Otherwise, you can wander around and no problem. The text abounds in repetitions, which are, however, not repetitious. If you do not like the repetition, read this one verse, quoted from the Yoga Vasishtha. This world appearance is a confusion. Even as the blueness of the sky is an optical illusion. I think it is better not to let the mind dwell on it but ignore it. So here is one text which bears repetition. This world appearance is a confusion. We all know it's a confusion, right? So why are you sitting here? Even as the blueness of the sky is an optical illusion, there is no blue. If you go there, there is no blue. I think it is better not to let the mind dwell on this, on that which is an illusion, an appearance, but to ignore it. One of the oft repeated sentences. This verse occurs several times in the scripture and it seems to be the essence of the teaching. If this is not clear to you, read the scripture. Numerous ways in which this truth is revealed will open your mind. It is wise to read just 1 page a day. We can't do it because we need to go 1 page a day. How many days will it take? Actually, this should be taught in a hermitage, somewhere in the forest. There is no disturbance. The people have resigned their jobs and come and then read 1 page a day. That would be wonderful. Not possible. We'll make do with what we have. An oft recurring expression in this scripture, anytime you can't hear clarity, please put up your hand. We need to work on this. An oft recurring expression in this scripture is kakataliya. Kakataliya. You know what kaka means? A crow. Kakataliya. I've said this many times in many satsang. What is this about? A crow. A crow alights on the coconut palm tree. That very moment, a ripe coconut falls. A crow alights on a coconut palm, and at the same moment, a coconut falls from the tree. The two unrelated events thus seem to be related in. I wish they found an announcer policeman who had a sweet voice. Anyway. The two unrelated events thus seem to be related in time and space, though actually there is no relationship between the two. What happened? The crow sitting on the coconut tree has nothing to do with the coconut falling. But the human mind is such that it has to create a connection. This is the problem. Such is life, such is creation. Things happen, we don't know the explanation, but the human mind has to create a connection or a relationship between the two events which actually are not connected to each other. It's called the crow logic, because of the crow there. Not the crow's logic, human logic. Such is life, such is creation, but the mind, caught up in its own trap of logic, questions why, even invents a why and a whereof to satisfy itself, conveniently ignoring the inconvenient questions that still haunt an intelligent mind. Vasishtha demands direct observation of the mind, its motion, its notions, its reasoning, the assumed cause and the projected result, and even the observer, the observed and the observation, and the realization of their indivisible unity as infinite consciousness. This is the importance of this Yoga Vasishtha. If, however, now in between, Vasishtha is bold enough to proclaim. What does he say? If, however, one thinks that it is not an authoritative scripture because it is of human origin, one can resort to the study of any other scripture dealing with self-knowledge and final liberation. So therefore, says Vasishtha, one should study at least a small part of the scripture. We are going to do the opposite. We are going to do a small part of the scripture daily. The beauty of the scripture is that its student is not abandoned to despair. If something is not clear in the first instance, a further study of the scripture makes it clear. That's it. That is the introduction. I'm going to start now. Sutikshana is one relief. It's like a story. Sutikshana, the sage, the rishi, asked the rishi Agastya, "O sage, kindly enlighten me on this problem of liberation. Which is more conducive to liberation, work or knowledge?" O sage, kindly enlighten me on this problem of liberation. Which one of the two is conducive to liberation, work or knowledge? That's clear, right? Am I clear? When I am reading, not what he is saying, but I'm so sorry about this, we can do nothing. We have been bearing with this throughout from day one. And it's trying to save people. Bole bichade, something. People, आनंदिता देशमुख यहाँ आपके लिए राह देख रही है, जल्दी आइए. So, Sutikshana the sage asked the sage Agastya, please enlighten me on this problem of liberation. Which one of the two is conducive to liberation, work or knowledge? Agastya replied, Ubhabhyam iva pakshabhyam yatha ke pakshina gati tathai iva jnana karmabhyam jayate paramam padam. Agastya replied, as birds are able to fly with the two wings, can't fly with one wing. Therefore, knowledge together with work lead to the supreme goal of liberation. You need both wings, knowledge, you also need work. And Agastya gave the example of birds which are able to fly with two wings in the same way. One is knowledge and the other is work. Not indeed work alone, nor indeed knowledge alone can lead to liberation. Both of them together form the means to liberation. Then listen, I shall narrate to you a legend, a story, in answer to a question. Now here begins one nice story. Tomorrow's session, I would request that instead of these Ida and Pingala, if we can have a small microphone in my collar, so I can, because when I look, instead of going to the Shushumna, it's going here and there. Learning through trial and error. So, if I keep it here, then I have to speak through my ear. So, here is a story. There once lived a holy man by name Karunya, who was the son of Agnivesya. Having mastered the holy scriptures and understood their purport, their essence, the young man became apathetic to life. Seeing this, Agnivesya demanded why Karunya had abandoned the performance of his daily duties, to which Karunya replied, the son replied, do not the scriptures declare, on the one hand, that one should fulfill scriptural injunctions till the end of one's life, and on the other, that immortality can be realized only by the abandonment of all action. Caught between these two doctrines, what shall I do, O my Guru, my father? Having said this, the young man remained silent. His question was, on one hand, the scriptures declare that you have to do your duties, you have to do all the daily practices, duties. On the other hand, they say that you cannot reach the truth without abandoning your duties. I am confused between the two. And he kept quiet. Oh, my Guru, my father. Those days, okay? Nowadays rare for the son to say, my Guru, my father, my sir, you know. Nowadays children usually, that is what I think, you keep quiet. So, having said this, the young man remained silent. Agnivesya said, My son, listen now, story inside a story. And Agnivesya said, my son, listen, I shall narrate to you an ancient legend. Duly consider its moral and then do as you please. Once upon a time, a celestial nymph, who is a celestial nymph? Not belonging to this world, a virgin from some other planet, a nymph. What happened to her? Once upon a time, a celestial nymph, whose name was Suruchi, was seated on the peak of the Himalaya when she saw a messenger of Indra, the king of the gods, fly past. Bhai Dharmendra Gupta. Bye. Questioned by her, he informed her of his mission, which was as follows. What was the mission? Why was he going? Where was he going? A royal sage by name Aristanemi, an aristocrat by name Aristanemi, entrusted his kingdom to his son and was engaged in austerities, tapasya, breathtaking tapasya, in the Gandhamadana hill. Saying this, Indra asked me to approach him with a whole group of dancing nymphs and escort the royal sage to heaven. Now Indra cannot stand when somebody is doing tapasya and is going to go beyond all attractions of the world. So he called him and said, go get some nice beautiful nymphs and escort him to heaven where he can enjoy, eat, drink and make merry. You get royal drinks there. So seeing this, the royal sage, the great sage who was doing his tapasya, however, wanted to know the merits and demerits of heaven. So I replied, in heaven, the best, the middling and the least among the pious mortals receive appropriate rewards, and once the fruits of their respective merits have been exhausted, they return to the world of mortals. Royal sage, hearing this, refused to accept Indra's invitation to heaven. Because he thought, what is this? You go there, and according to your merit you enjoy, then you are pushed down again into this world. So why would I do that? I want to be free. The royal sage refused to accept Indra's invitation to heaven. Indra again called me and said, send me to the royal sage with the request that he should seek the counsel of the great sage Valimki before turning down the offer of going to heaven. Valimki, is the author of Ramayana. In fact, Valmiki is called Adi Kavi, the first poet to write epic poetry in Sanskrit. So he said, go and ask Valmiki, tell him about what you think and then take his counsel before refusing the offer of going to heaven. Royal sage was then introduced to Valmiki. He asked Valmiki, what is the best way to rid oneself of birth and death? Because if there is birth, there is death. So if you don't get rid of birth, then you cannot get rid of death. So what is the way to get rid of birth and death? In reply, Valmiki narrated to him the dialogue between Rama and Vasishtha. This is the Yoga Vasishtha. Now, aham baddho vimuktaha syam iti yasya asti nischaya na atyantam ajño na tad jnanaha so asmin shastre dhikaravan. Valimki said, he is qualified to study the scripture. Watch out if you are qualified or if I am qualified. He is qualified to study the scripture. Ladies need not worry because he is qualified to study the scripture, the dialogue between Rama and Vasishtha, who feels, I am bound and I should be liberated. If you already feel that you are liberated, you don't have to read the scripture. It is for those who say, I am bound and I have to be liberated, who have this awareness. Also, one who is not totally ignorant and not enlightened. Somewhere in between the two. That's where most of us swing. We know some things, but we are not liberated. So it's meant for such seekers, one who feel we are bound and we want to be free. If you don't think you are bound, you don't read this, there is no use. And the other is that you know something is there, but you are still not liberated. This is the kind of person who would want to read, said Valimki. I had composed the story of Rama earlier, and I had imparted it to my beloved disciple Bharadwaja. Once when Bharadwaja went to Mount Meru, he narrated it to Brahma, the creator. Highly pleased with this, the latter granted a boon to Bharadwaja. Now Bharadwaja, being an unselfish man, sought a boon that all human beings may be freed from unhappiness and begged Brahma to find the best way to achieve this. Brahma said to Bharadwaja, go to the sage Valimki and pray to him to continue to narrate the noble story of Rama without hiding that which he has hidden already, in such a way that the listener may be freed from the darkness of ignorance. Not content with that, Brahma also accompanied said Bharadwaja and arrived at the hermitage of Valimki. After receiving due worship at my hands, Brahma said to me, O sage, your story of Rama should be the raft with which men will cross the ocean. People will cross the ocean of samsara. Hence, continue its narration and bring it to a successful completion. Having said this, the creator Brahma disappeared from the scene. As if puzzled by the abrupt command of Brahma, I requested the sage Bharadwaja to explain to me what Brahma had just said. Bharadwaja repeated Brahma's words. Brahma would like to reveal the story of Rama in such a manner that it would enable all of us to go beyond sorrow. I too pray to you, O sage, kindly tell me in detail how Rama, Lakshmana and other brothers freed themselves from sorrow. I then revealed to Bharadwaja the secret of the liberation of Rama, Lakshmana and other brothers, as also their parents and members of the royal court. And I said to Bharadwaja, my son, if you too live like them, you will also be freed from sorrow here and now. Valimiki continued, Brahmasya jagatasya asaya jatasya kashavaranaat varanavat apuna smaranam manye sadhu Vishmaranam varam, the world appearance, this keeps appearing again and again. The world appearance is a confusion. Even as the blueness of the sky is an optical illusion, I think it is better not to let the mind dwell on it, but to ignore it. Neither freedom from sorrow nor realization of one's real nature is possible as long as this conviction does not arise in one that the world appearance is not real. And this conviction arises when one studies the scripture with complete attention. It is then that one arrives at the firm conviction that the objective world is a confusion of the real with the unreal. If one does not study the scripture this way, knowledge does not arise even in 1,000,000 years. Moksha or liberation is the total abandonment of all vasanas or mental conditionings without the least reserve. Mental conditioning is of two types, the pure and the impure. The impure is the cause of birth, the pure liberates one from truth. The impure is the nature of the ego and darkness. These are the seed, as it were, for the tree of rebirth. On the other hand, when these seeds are abandoned, the mental conditioning that merely sustains the body is of a pure nature. Such mental conditioning exists even in those who have been liberated while living. It does not lead to rebirth, as it is sustained only by past momentum and not by present motivation. You will find that even the greatest of sages. Somebody asked me yesterday, "Do you have an ego?" I said, "Yes, I do." But I asked him, "Have you found anyone who has no ego?" He said, "Somebody told me he has no ego." I said, "How did you say that without an ego?" People have all kinds of wrong misunderstandings about everybody has an ego. Every human being has an ego. If somebody says I have no ego at all, is either lying or is not okay here. There is an ego. The question is the ego pure or is the ego impure? Which means, is the ego only thinking about itself or also thinking about others? Is the ego so caught up that it only wants to survive even if others die? Is this ego always working how to cause injury and pain to others? Is this ego aiming to get something even if others suffer for it? Or is this ego understanding the fact that every human being has one, is a good ego who means good to others, whose only aim in life is to find liberation? Now, when liberation is found, when one understands that one is not the ego, but something else, still there is a semblance of the ego without which you cannot even teach, talk, move. So here he says, when the seeds of desire are abandoned, the mental conditioning sustains the body still. It's of a pure nature. Such mental conditioning exists even in those who have been liberated while living, jivana muktas. It does not lead to rebirth, as it is sustained only by past momentum and not by present motivation. It moves on. But the body does what is required, but it has no new seeds which sprout over and over again. Seeds are gone. It's like, let me put it this way. Suppose you put on the fan, right? And then you switch it off. When you switch it off, the electricity supply to the fan is over. Does it immediately stop? Takes its own time and then stops. This movement without the electricity is the life and ego of a person who has already attained liberation. You may see it still moving, but it has no life. just moving on his own accord because of prarabdhas. Such a person you might even find falling ill, suffering, and so on. But inside there is no suffering. He's free, he knows he's not identified with the body anymore. So, to think that when you attain liberation, you can never get a cold or a cough is a completely wrong idea. I have lived with a great soul who sometimes would get up in the morning and say, "Naak band ho gayi." Anyway, so then what happened? Now I shall narrate to you, people like stories, how Rama lived an enlightened life of a liberated sage. Knowing this, you will be freed from all misunderstanding concerning old age and death. Upon his return from the hermitage of his preceptor Vishwamitra, Rama dwelt in his father's palace, sporting in various ways. Then, desirous of touring the whole country and visiting places of pilgrimage, Rama sought the presence of his father and asked him to be permitted to undertake a pilgrimage to all the holy places. The king chose an auspicious day for this, and on that day, after receiving the affectionate blessings of the elders of the family, Rama departed. What are you doing with that thing? Oh, I thought you were trying to push the sound outside. So what happened? Rama returned from Vishwamitra's ashrama in the forest, and then after some days he told his father, "Sir, I need to go around and see the places of pilgrimage all over the world, in the country." And so he left. And he went on a good day, auspicious day, after receiving the blessings of the elders of the family. Then Rama toured the whole country from the Himalayas downwards, along with his brothers. He then returned to the capital through the delight of the people of the country. Rama was such a nice, good ruler, at least a prince, that people heaved a sigh of relief when they returned. There are some people who, when they go, people heave a sigh of relief. But when Rama came back, they were very happy. They heaved a sigh of relief. Now what did Rama do? This is Valimki talking, not Vasishtha yet. Upon entering the palace, Rama devotedly bowed to his father, then to the sage Vasishtha and other elders and holy men. The whole city of Ayodhya put on a festive appearance for 8 days to celebrate the return of Rama from the pilgrimage. For some time, Rama lived in the palace, duly performing his daily duties. However, soon a profound change came over him. He grew thin and emaciated, pale and weak. The king Dasharata was worried over this sudden and unaccountable change in his beloved son's appearance and behavior. Whenever he questioned Rama concerning his health, Rama said, "There is nothing wrong, I am okay." When Dasharata asked Rama, "Beloved son, what's worrying you?" Rama politely said, "Nothing, father," and remained silent. Inevitably, Dasharata turned to the sage Vasishtha for the answers. The sage enigmatically answered. So when Dasharata asked Vasishtha, what can I do? What is happening here? He answered. What did he say? Kupam vishada kalanam vitatam saharsham na lipena karanavasene vahanti santaha sargena samhritvena vina jagatyam bhutani bhupana mahanti vikravanti. Sounds better like this than in English, but we have to talk in English. So what did he say? He said, surely there is some reason why Rama behaves in this manner. Even as in this world no great changes take place before the coming into being of their cause. Cosmic elements, like the cosmic elements, I'll read again. Changes like anger, despondency and joy do not manifest in the behavior of noble ones without proper cause. Vasishtha answered a cryptic. He gave him a cryptic answer. He didn't answer fully. He said, such changes happen in people, especially great people, when something is going to happen. When something which has not yet happened is going to take place, you will see that these things happen even to the wise, and kept quiet. Dasharata did not wish to probe further because I think Dasharata didn't understand what he was saying. Okay, he said. Like sometimes you talk to our friends, you understood, no? Yes, we understood. You know from the yes that they didn't understand, but yes, okay. Soon after this, arrived at the palace the sage Vishwamitra of world renown. When the king was informed, he rushed to meet him and brought him in. He did whatever is required, washed his feet. And Dasharata said, welcome, O holy sage. Your arrival at my humble abode makes me happy. It's as welcome to me as vision to a blind man, rain to the parched earth, sun to a barren woman, resurrection of a dead man and recovery of lost wealth. O sage, what can I do for you? I worship you. I shall do whatever you ask me to do. Valimki continued. Vishwamitra was delighted to hear Dasharata's words and proceeded to reveal his mission. Now what did Dasharata say? Just tell me what to do and I'll do it for you. So Vishwamitra said, okay, so let me try this guy now. O king, I need your assistance in the fulfillment of a religious rite, a yajna, which is undertaken by me now. Whenever I undertake a yajna, a religious rite, the Rakshasas, who are the followers of Khara and Dushana, invade the holy place and desecrate it. Under the vows of the religious rites, I am unable to curse them. Because if I have to do this yajna, I can't curse anybody, so I cannot do anything. Otherwise I would have finished them off in 2 minutes. I need your help. You can help me. Dasharata said, how? Your son Rama can deal with these demons. And in return for this help, I'll confer manifold blessings upon him, which will bring you unexcelled glory. Or, do not let your attachment to your son overpower your devotion to duty. In this world, the noble ones do not consider any gift beyond their means. The moment you say yes, that very moment I consider that the Rakshasas are finished, dead. You have to say yes. You said I will do anything for you. Say yes. Let me take Rama with me. For I know who Rama is. Even so does the sage Vasishtha. and the other holy ones in this court, let there be no procrastination. O king, send Rama with me without delay. Hearing this highly unwelcome request, the king remained stunned and silent for a while, and then replied, O sage, Rama is not even 16 years old and is therefore not qualified to wage a war. He has not even been in combat or seen a combat except what goes on in the inner apartments of the palace. Command me to accompany you, I will come. Command my vast army to accompany you to exterminate the Rakshasas. But I cannot part with Rama. It is not natural, is it not natural for all living beings to love their young? And do not even wise men engage themselves in extraordinary activities for the love of their children? They even go to Coorg and see how coffee is being picked. And do not people abandon their happiness, their consorts and wealth rather than their children? No, I cannot part with Rama. I have heard of the mighty demon Ravana. Is he the one that causes disturbance to your rights, Ravana? In that case, nothing can be done to help you. Dasharata knows who Ravana is. He knows that he is one of the dearest and mightiest disciples, devotees of Shiva. Such a great being, if that is the case, I am telling you there is no way out. And don't take my Rama for that. I have heard of this Ravana. In that case, nothing can be done. Even the gods are powerless against him. What will my little Rama do? Time and time again, such powerful beings are born on this earth. And in time, they leave the stage of the world. So he will also go, just leave it alone. All this is why? Because he doesn't want to let go of Rama. Desire to hold on to his baby. Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra is also the sage who gave us the Gayatri mantra. In the Rig Veda, the Rishi is Vishwamitra. He is called Vishwamitra, is supposed to be the friend of the universe. But he is a person who suddenly would go into a rage. Vishwamitra got angry. Seeing this, the sage Vasishtha intervened and persuaded the king not to back out of his promise, but to send Rama with Vishwamitra. He said, O king, it is unworthy of you to go back on your promise. You promised I will do anything for you. The king should be an exemplar of religious conduct. Rama is safe in the hands of Vishwamitra, who is extremely powerful and who has numerous invincible missiles with him. Astras. Valimki continued, in obedience to the wishes of preceptor Vasishtha, King Dasharata ordered an attendant to go and fetch Rama from the inner apartments. This attendant returned and announced that Rama would follow in a minute, but he said, the prince seems to be dejected and he shuns company. Bewildered by this statement, Dasharata turned to Rama's chamberlain and wished to know the facts. The chamberlain was visibly distressed, wondering how to tell the king. And then he said, Lord, since his return from the pilgrimage, great change has come over the prince. He does not seem to be interested even in bathing and in the worship of the deity. He does not enjoy the company of people in the inner apartments. He is not interested in jewels and precious stones. Even when offered charming and pleasing objects, He looks at them with sad, uninterested eyes. He spurns the palace dancers, regarding them as tormentors. He goes through the motions of eating, walking, resting, waiting and sitting like an automation, like one who is deaf and dumb. Often he mutters to himself, what is the use of wealth and prosperity? What is the use of adversity or of this house? All this is unreal. He is silent most of the time and is not amused by entertainment. He has asked me to disconnect the TV. He relishes only solitude. He is all the time immersed in his own thought. We do not know what has come over our prince. What he contemplates in his mind, we do not know, or what he is after. Day by day, he is getting more and more emaciated. Again and again, he sings to himself, saying, alas, we are dissipating our life in various ways instead of striving to reach the Supreme. People wail aloud that they are suffering and that they are destitute, but no one sincerely turns away from the sources of their suffering and destitution. Seeing all this and hearing all this, we, his humble servants, are extremely distressed. We do not know what to do. He is bereft of hope. He seems to have no desire. He is attached to nothing. And he depends on nothing. He is not deluded nor demented, and yet also is not enlightened. At times, however, it looks like he is overwhelmed by suicidal thoughts, spurred by the feelings of despondency. What is the use of wealth or of mothers and relations? What is the use of this kingdom? What is the use of ambition in this world? He keeps repeating once in a while. We have heard him many times. Lord, only you can find the remedy for this condition of the prince. Vishwamitra said, in that case, may Rama be requested to come here. His condition is not the result of delusion. It is full of wisdom and dispassion, and it points to enlightenment. Bring him here and we shall dispel his despondency. Valimki said, still Valimki, thereupon the king urged the chamberlain to invite Rama to the court. In the meantime, Rama himself got ready to meet his father. Even from a distance he saw them and saluted his father and the sages. And they saw that though young, his face shone with the peace of maturity. He bowed to the feet of the king, who embraced him and asked him, what makes you so sad, my son? Dejection is an open invitation to a host of miseries. The sages Vasishtha and Vishwamitra agreed with the king. Now, I am reminded of some such despondency in somebody else, which happened to my knowledge. In the banks of, I forgot now which river, there is a nice, beautiful place called Sringeri. Now in Sringeri, some generations before, not now, some generations before, there was an Acharya, or a head of the mutt, Shankara Acharya, whose name was Chandrashekara Saraswati. Not Chandrashekara Bharathi, who was Kanchi, Kamkoti, but Chandrashekara Saraswati. Now it turns out that he became very despondent. I mean, people thought that something has happened to him, his despondency, he never came out. Many days he didn't go to have a bath in the Tungabhadra. Many days he did not eat. He shut himself up in a room like a cell. Now he is the pontiff, he is supposed to officiate. But no, he wouldn't appear. People who went near the room heard him singing loudly inside and things like that. One person went in by mistake and found that he had thrown off all his clothes and he was naked. So they got very worried. What has happened if the head has become crazy? So he could not understand what the craziness was. So the report went to the Maharaja of Mysore, who at that time, I think it was Krishnaraja Odayar, Mysore Maharaj. And he got very worried because the Sringeri Math is attached also to the Mysore. So he sent two young men to figure out what's happened here. What is the problem? The king advised them. One of them was a young doctor. So he said, go discreetly, don't make overt questions, just go discreetly and talk to people and figure out what's happening there. So he went with another man. So the young doctor and they were sitting in the front row because they came from the Maharaja's palace. Suddenly, the door opened and the Shankaracharya came out. He was dressed exactly as officially what the Shankaracharyas wear. He was clean shaved and he had the bhasma marks, which means after he had a bath, and then he sat on they have a kind of a throne-like thing, he sat on it. The first thing he asked the young doctor in front was, do I look all right? This man said, yes, Swami, you look all right. Why do you ask? He said, no, I'm just asking. Some rumors are afloat. Do I look normal? He said, yes, you look normal to me. Then he said, did the Maharaja sent you? He said, yes. Go and tell the Maharaja that I am safe and sound, I am all right. There are all these rumors, don't give any attention to that. And then he said, there was a young man who, when he was very young, his mother suffered from a terrible stomachache. Nothing could cure it. So she told her son, go to Sringeri, meet the Acharya and get some bhasma, ashes. So he came and he took the ashes and he gave it to his mother. She became okay. Now the same young man has come here to find out if I am sick. Anyway, this is the way of the world. You carry on, tell the Maharaja I am all right. Now Rama was also in a similar state. Who knows why, what? That's why I told you this. So Vishwamitra said, please bring Rama, bring him here. His condition is not the result of delusion. It is full of wisdom and dispassion. It points to enlightenment. So bring him here and we shall dispel his despondency. So we finished that. Then he entered and the king asked, what makes you so sad? Rama said, Holy Sir, I shall duly answer your questions. I grew up happily in my father's abode. I was instructed by worthy teachers. Recently I went on a pilgrimage. During this period, a trend of thought has taken hold of me, robbing me of all hope in this world. My heart begins to question, what do people call happiness? And can it be had in these ever-changing objects of the world? All beings in this world take birth, but they die, and then they die to be born again. I do not perceive any meaning in all these transient phenomena, which are the roots of suffering. Unrelated beings come together, and the mind conjures up a relationship between them. Everything in this world is dependent upon the mind, one's mind's attitude. On examination, carefully, the mind itself appears to be unreal. but we are bewitched by it. We seem to be running after a mirage in the desert to slake our thirst. Sir, surely we are not born slaves, sold to a master. Yet we live a life of slavery without any freedom whatsoever. Ignorant of the truth, we have been aimlessly wandering in this dense forest called the world. What is this world? What comes into being grows and dies. How does this suffering come to an end? My heart bleeds with sorrow, though I do not shed tears in deference to the feelings of my friends. Rama continued, equally useless, O sage, is wealth which deludes the ignorant. Please understand, Rama was not a pauper or a beggar who was talking about this, because he didn't have money, everything. He was the king, the prince. Equally useless, O sage, is wealth which deludes the ignorant. Unsteady and fleeting, this wealth gives birth to numerous worries and generates an insatiable craving for more and more. It never satisfies. Wealth is no respecter of persons. Both the good and the wicked become wealthy. However, people are good, compassionate and friendly only till their hearts are hardened by the passionate pursuit of wealth. I'm actually very happy that I don't have the siddhi called stambhana. Otherwise, dream and you. So, I'm glad. Babaji asked me once, do you want the siddhis or do you want more? I said, I don't want any siddhis. Sometimes I regret. Anyway. Wealth is no respecter of persons. Both the good and the wicked can become wealthy. Hardened by the pursuit of wealth, they have no friendship to anybody. Wealth taints the heart even of the wise scholar, a hero, a man of gratitude and a dexterous and soft-spoken person. Wealth and happiness do not dwell together. Rare is that wealthy one who does not have rivals and enemies who scandalize them. To the lotus of right action, wealth is the night. To the white lotus of sorrow, it is the moonlight. To the lamp of clear insight, it is the wind. To the wave of enmity, it's a flood. To the cloud of confusion, it is a favorable wind. To the poison of despondency, it's an aggravating agent. It is like the serpent of evil thoughts and it adds fear to one's distress. It is destructive snowfall to the creeper of dispassion. It is a nightfall to the owl of evil desires. It is the eclipse of the moon of wisdom. In its presence, a person's good nature shrivels. Indeed, wealth seeks him who has already been chosen by death. Even so is the lifespan of human beings, O sage. Its duration is like that of a water droplet on a leaf. The lifespan is fruitful only to those who have self-knowledge. We may encompass the wind. We may break up space. We are doing all that today with science. Man vainly seeks. We may encompass the wind. Soon you will have fuel which is made of wind. We have already. We may break up space happening. This was written when? We may string waves into a garland, but we cannot pin our fate on the lifespan. Nobody knows. Man vainly seeks to extend his lifespan. Human beings vainly seek to extend their lifespan and thereby earn more sorrow and extend the period of suffering. Only he who strives to gain self-knowledge, which alone is worth gaining in this world, puts an end to future births. Others exist here like donkeys. To the unwise, knowledge of scriptures is a burden. To one who is full of desires, even wisdom is a burden. To one who is restless, his own mind is a burden. And to one who has no self-knowledge, the body is a burden. The rat of time gnaws at the lifespan without respite. The termite of disease destroys the very vitals of the living being. Just as a cat, intent on catching a rat, looks at it with great alertness and readiness, death is ever keeping a watch over this lifespan. Rama continued, Holy Sir, I am bewildered and scared when I contemplate the coming into being of the dreadful enemy of wisdom known as egotism. It comes into being in the darkness of ignorance and flourishes in ignorance. It generates endless sinful tendencies and actions. All suffering revolves around the ego. It is the I who suffers, and egotism is the sole cause of mental distress. I feel that egotism is my worst disease. Spreading the net of worldly objects of pleasure, it is this ego-born egotism that traps living beings. Egotism eclipses self-control, destroys virtue and dissipates equanimity. Giving up the egotistic notion that I am Rama and giving up all desires, I wish to rest in the self. I realize that whatever I have done with an egoistic notion is vain. Being without an ego is the truth. When I am under the influence of ego, I am unhappy. When I am free from egotism, I am happy. Egotism promotes cravings. Without it they would perish. Without it, it perishes. It is this egotism alone, without rhyme or reason, that has spread the net of family and social relationships to catch the unwary soul. I think I am free. I think I am still not free from egotism. And therefore I am miserable. Pray, enlighten me. Bereft of the grace earned through the service of the holy ones, the impure mind stuff remains restless as the wind. It is dissatisfied with whatever it gets and grows more and more restless by the day. Unmindful of the possibility of reaping great suffering in hell, the mind seeks pleasure here, even if it does not get it. Like the lion in a cage, the mind is ever restless, having lost its freedom, yet not happy with its present stage. Alas, O Holy One, I am bound by the knots of craving to the net that has been spread by the mind. Even as the rushing waters of a river uproot the trees on its bank, the restless mind has uprooted my whole being. I am being wafted like a dry leaf in the wind by the mind. It does not let me rest anywhere. It is this mind alone which is the cause of all the objects of the world. The three worlds exist because of the mind. When the mind vanishes, the worlds vanish. Please bear with me, Rama is still lamenting. Rama continued. It is really when the mind stuff is enveloped by craving that immeasurable errors arise in the darkness of ignorance. This craving dries up the good and noble qualities of the mind like sweetness and gentleness of disposition, and makes one cruel and hard. In that darkness, craving in its different forms dances like a goblin. Though I adopt various methods to restrain the craving, the latter overpowers me in a moment and helplessly leads me astray, even as a gale carries away a straw. Whatever hope I entertain of developing dispassion and such other qualities, craving cuts that hope away even as a rat snaps a thread, and I helplessly revolve, caught in the wind of craving. Like birds caught in a net, we are unable, though we have wings for it, to fly to our goal or abode of self-knowledge. Nor can this craving be ever appeased, even if I were to quaff the nectar. Though I am a hero, this craving makes me a frightened coward. Though I have eyes to see, it makes me blind. Though I am full of joy, it makes me miserable. It's a dreadful goblin. In this dreadful goblin, craving that is responsible for bondage and misfortune. It breaks the heart of man and creates delusion. Caught by this, one is unable to enjoy even the pleasures that are within its reach. Craving ascends to the skies, now dives into the depths of the other world, netherworld, is ever restless, for it is based on the emptiness of the mind. In the mind, the light of wisdom momentarily shines, but there is delusion the next moment. It's a wonder that sages are able to cut this with the sword of self-knowledge. Now Rama is continuing, so I will also continue. There are 8 pages of Rama's question, and then comes Valmiki. Vasishtha. Are you bored? Yes? Yes? That you are saying to make me happy maybe. Because now Rama is going to say something even more horrible. This pitiable body, composed of veins, arteries and nerves, is also a source of pain. Inert, it appears to be intelligent. One does not know if it is sentient or insentient, and it engenders only delusion. Delighted with a little gratification and distressed by the least adversity, this body is indeed highly despisable. I can only compare a tree to the body, with branches for arms, trunk for the torso, holes for the eyes, fruits for the head, leaves for the numerous illnesses that we have. It is a resting place for living beings. Who can say that it is one's own? Hope or despair in relation to it is futile. It is but a boat given to one for crossing this ocean of birth and death. One should not regard it as one's own self. Now this thing, it's a place for living beings. It's very interesting. All medical people know that there are innumerable bacteria living in the gut. It's the bacteria that digest the food also, and it is the bacteria that causes problems also. So we human beings are carrying this miserable bacteria in our bodies, and we smell good because of the spray. When you go to sleep and when you get up in the morning, every day sleep is like a little rehearsal for the final sleep. What happens if you sleep? When you get up in the morning, you have to brush your teeth, you have to wash your face, you have to spray and all that, because you begin to smell. If you sleep for 3 days, the dead body smells after a while. This is a short death, so we begin to smell. right? And yet we are so fond of this body. And we are so fond of anything connected to the body. And we are so fond of people who say, oh, you are wonderful. This is the illusion. Interesting, if you look at it carefully, this is an illusion, but we love to live by it. Every morning we look at the mirror, oh, how do I look? And we also carry inside the body all the pee and the shit and everything that goes out. When it goes out, you don't want to touch it. When it is inside, we are the carriers. And yet we look so proud. Rama is saying, I am not saying. Rama. This tree, which is the body, is born in the forest known as samsara. Samsara is birth and death, repetitive existence. It is constantly eaten by insects of endless suffering. It shelters the venomous serpent of craving and the wild crow of anger. On it are the flowers of laughter. Its fruits are good and evil. It appears to be animated by the life force called prana, the wind. Provides the shade of pleasure. The formidable vulture, the ego, is seated on it. It is hollow and empty. It is certainly not meant to promote happiness. Whether it lives for long or falls in a short time, it is still useless. It is composed of flesh and blood. It is a subject of old age and death. I am not enamored by it. It is completely filled with impure substances and afflicted with ignorance. How can I fulfill my hopes? This body is the home of illness, the field for mental distress and changing emotions. I am not enamored by it. What is wealth? What is kingdom? What is this body? All these are mercilessly cut down by death. At death, this ungrateful body abandons the soul that dwelt in it and protected it. What hope shall I see? Shamelessly it indulges again and again in the same actions. It seeks wealth and power, even unmindful of old age and death, which is common to both the rich and the poor. Shame upon those who are bound to this body. Rama is saying, okay, deluded by the wine of ignorance, shame on those who are bound to this world. Now here is some interesting views of Rama on childhood. Because we usually hear these songs, Bachpan ke din bhi kya din and all that. Which is of course the grown-up trying to hide under the illusion of young age. Now what is Rama's opinion? Rama said even childhood, the part of life which people ignorantly regard as enjoyable and happy, is full of sorrow. O sage, what are the sorrows? Helplessness, mishaps, cravings, inability to express oneself, utter foolishness, playfulness, instability, weakness, all these characterize childhood. The child is easily offended, easily aroused to anger, easily bursts into tears. In fact, one may say boldly that the child's anguish is more terrible than that of a dying person, an aged man, a sick man, or any other adult. For the childhood, one's state is comparably truly that of an animal living at the mercy of others. Have you thought about this? When we are young, when we are a child, we are so helpless. This is not to be proved, it is true. Even if you have to move from one place, somebody has to take you and put you there. Right? We are so helpless. And after some time, we are in a state where I think now we are under control. We are not helpless. Although, truly the helplessness continues, but we like to pretend. And then at the end, when you go old, same thing. Somebody has to lift you and put you there, or bring you on a wheelchair. So you're going back to the same condition, almost. The child cannot speak. There are some very old people who cannot speak. Same. In between, the drama goes on, the circus. And then we are taken up by it. Think that this is life. The child is exposed to the countless happenings around him. They puzzle the child, confuse the child, and arouse various fantasies and fears. The child is impressionable, and is easily influenced by the wicked. In consequence, the child is subjected to control and punishment by its parents. Childhood seems to be a period of subjection and slavery and nothing else. New view, old Rama's view. Though the child may appear to be innocent, the truth is that all sorts of defects, sinful tendencies, neurotic behavior lie hidden and dormant in it, even as an owl lies hidden in the dark hole during the daytime. O sage, I pity those people who foolishly imagine that childhood is a happy period. What can be worse suffering than a restless mind? And the child's mind is extremely restless. Unless the child gets something new every day, it is unhappy. Crying and weeping seem to be its foremost activity. When the child does not get what it wants, it looks as if it's heartbroken. When the child goes to school, it receives punishment in the hands of its teachers, and all this adds to its unhappiness. When the child cries, its parents, in order to pacify it, promise to give it the world. Then on the child begins to value the world, to desire the worldly objects. The parents say, I shall give you the moon for a toy, and the child, believing their words, thinks it can hold the moon in his hands. Thus the seeds of delusion are sown in the little heart. Though the child feels heat and cold, it is unable to avoid it. How is it better than a tree then? Like the animals and birds, the child vainly reaches out to get what it wants. And it is fearful of the elders in the house. Leaving this period of childhood behind, the human being goes on to the stage of youth, but is unable to leave the unhappiness behind. There, subjected to various numerous mental modifications, and he progresses from misery to greater misery, abandons wisdom and embraces the terrible goblin known as lust that resides in the heart. Life is full of desire and anxiety. They who have not been robbed of their wisdom in their youth can withstand any onslaught. Therefore, I told you, this is meant only for people who feel they are bound. It is not meant for everybody. There are 800 people, I don't know what you are listening. Do you think it will bring about any change? I don't know, we'll see. Rama continues. Leaving this period of childhood behind, the human being goes on to the stage of youth, but is unable to leave the unhappiness behind. It is the childhood's unhappiness that remains deep hidden in the subconscious. There he is subject to numerous mental modifications, and he progresses, people would say, from success to success. Rama says, from misery to greater misery. For he abandons wisdom and embraces the terrible world and the lust that resides in the heart. His life is full of anxiety because of desire. I am not enamored of this transient youth in which short-lived pleasure is quickly followed by long-lasting suffering, and deluded by which man regards the changing to be the changeless. What is worse, it is during youth that one indulges in such actions that bring unhappiness to others. Even as a tree is consumed by a forest fire, the youth's heart is consumed by the fire of lust when his beloved leaves him. However much he may strive to develop purity of heart, the youth's heart is stained with impurity. Even when his beloved is not present near him, he is distracted by the thoughts of her beauty. Such a person who is full of cravings is naturally not held in high esteem by the great ones. Youth is the board of diseases and mental distress. It can be compared to a bird whose wings are good and evil acts. Youth is like a sandstorm that disperses and dissipates one's qualities. Youth arouses all sorts of evils in the heart and suppresses the good qualities that may exist. It gives rise to delusion and attachment. Though youthfulness appears to be very desirable to the body, destructive to the mind. In youth, one is tempted by the mirage of happiness and its pursuit, and one falls into the well of sorrow. So I am not enamored of youth, says Rama. Alas, even when youth is about to leave the body, the passions that have been aroused by youth burn more fiercely and bring about quick destruction. He who delights in youth is surely not a human being, but an animal in human garb. They are adorable, they are great souls, they alone are men who are not overcome by the evils of youth and who survive the stage of life without succumbing to the temptations. For it is easy to cross a great ocean, but to reach the other shore of youth without being overcome by its likes and dislikes is indeed difficult. Should I read more about youth? No. But Rama is saying, what can I do? Rama continued, in his youth, one is a slave of sexual attraction. And the body, which is no more than the aggregate of flesh, bone, blood, hair and skin, he pursues the beauty and charm. Even if this beauty is permanent, there is some justification, but it is not permanent, it doesn't last for long. On the contrary, very soon the very flesh that contributed to the attractiveness and charm and the beauty of the beloved is transformed first into shriveled ugliness of old age and later consumed by fire or by worms or by vultures. Yet, while it lasts, this sexual attraction consumes the heart and wisdom of the human being. By this is the creation maintained. When this attraction ceases, the samsara of birth and cycle also comes to an end. When the child is dissatisfied with his childhood, youth takes over. When youth is plagued by dissatisfaction and frustration, old age overpowers it. How cruel is this life! Even as a wind tosses a dewdrop from a leaf, old age destroys the body. Even as a drop of poison, when it enters the system, soon pervades it. Senility soon pervades the entire body and breaks it down. Now, though the old person is unable to satisfy desires physically, the desires themselves flourish and grow. He begins to ask himself, who am I? What should I do? Etc. When it's too late to change life's course after his lifestyle or make life more meaningful. With the onset of senility, all the distressing symptoms of physical breakdown, like cough, white hairs, hard breathing, dyspepsia, and emaciation manifest themselves. Perhaps the deity presiding over death sees the white-roofed head of the old man as salted melon and rushes to eat it. As a flood cuts away the roots of trees standing on the river bank, senility, nowadays nothing to worry, dyes are available. And you have to take lessons on it. It's called the art of dying. As a flood cuts away the roots of trees standing on the river bank, senility vigorously cuts off the root of life. Death follows and carries it away. Senility is like the royal attendant who precedes the king, which is death. Oh, how mysterious and how astounding is it! They who have been overcome by enemies, have taken their abode in inaccessible mountain peaks, even they have been afflicted by the demoness known as senility and degeneration. Now, I think you got an idea of what he's trying to say, right? So let's go to Vishwamitra. People are quick to shake their heads. There's enough listening to this. Now, let's read what Rama said last and then became silent. Rama continued, by reflecting on the pitiable fate of living beings, thus fallen into the dreadful pit of sorrow, I am filled with grief. My mind is confused. I shudder. At every step I am afraid. I have given up everything, but I have not established myself in wisdom. Hence I am partly caught and partly freed. I am like a tree that has been cut, but not taken out from the root. I wish to restrain my mind, but do not have the wisdom to do so. Hence, pray tell me, what is that condition or state in which one does not experience any grief? How can one who is involved in the world and his activities as I am reach the supreme state of peace and bliss? What is that attitude that enables one not to be influenced by the various kinds of activities and experience? Tell me, pray, how do you people who are enlightened live in this world? Tell me. How can the mind be freed from lust and made to view the world both as one's own self and also as no more valuable than a blade of grass, the biography of which great one shall I study in order to learn the path of wisdom? How should one live in this world, holy sir? Instruct me in that wisdom which will enable my otherwise restless mind to be steady like a mountain. You are an enlightened being. Instruct me so that I may never again be sunk in grief. Obviously, this world is full of pain and death. How does it become a source of joy without befuddling one's heart? The mind is obviously full of impurities. How can it be cleansed? With what cleanser prescribed by great sages? How should one live here so as not to fall a victim to the twin currents of love and hate? Obviously, there is a secret that enables one to remain unaffected by the grief and suffering in the world, even as mercury is not affected when it is thrown into fire. What is that secret? What is the secret that counteracts the habit of the mind that is spread out in the form of this universe? Who are those heroes who have freed themselves from this delusion? And what methods did they adopt to free themselves? If you consider that I am neither fit nor capable of understanding this, I will fast myself unto death. Rama says, you tell me, or I am going to not eat and fast myself to death. Please explain to me how. Valimki said, Having said so, Rama became silent. Valimki says, all those who had assembled in the court were highly inspired by the flaming words of Rama's wisdom. They felt as if they themselves had been rid of their doubts. They drank the nectarine words of Rama with great delight. They sat in the court listening to him with rapt attention. Who listened to Rama's discourse? Sages like Vasishtha and Vishwamitra, the ministers, members of the royal families including King Dasharata, citizens, holy ones, servants, caged birds, animal pets, the horses of the royal stable, and the celestials, the devas, including the perfected sages and heavenly musicians, the Gandharvas. Even the king of heaven and the chiefs of the another world listened to Rama. Thrilled to hear Rama's speech, all of them acclaimed, bravo, bravo, with one voice. There was a shower of flowers. Everyone assembled, cheered. Still they are not answering his question. This is what happened in this world also. They said, we were indeed extremely fortunate to have been able to listen to you. While we listened, it seemed as though we were filled with the feeling that there is no happiness even in heaven. The perfected sages in the assembly said, surely the answers that the holy ones are about to give to the weighty and wise questions of Rama are worthy of being heard by all beings in the universe. O sages, come, come, let us gather together in the court of King Dasharata. Listen to the answer to the supreme sage Vasishtha. Valmiki said, hearing this, all the sages of the world hastened to the court where they were duly received and seated. Surely, if in our heart the lofty wisdom of Rama is not reflected, we shall indeed be the losers. Whatever be our abilities and faculties, we shall thereby prove that we have lost our intelligence. Ivahi sputataram munayo hata buddhaya. As if we have lost our intelligence. Vishwamitra said, O Rama, you are indeed the foremost among the wise, and there is really nothing further for you to know. However, your knowledge needs confirmation. Even as the self-knowledge of Sukha needed confirmation from Janaka, before Sukha could find the peace that surpasseth understanding. Just like you, Sukha also arrived at the truth concerning existence after deep. You know who Sukha is, right? No. What will we do? Because the first thing we learn in school is Baba, black sheep. So we become black sheep. What can we? Anyway, Sukha Deva was the illustrious son of Vedavyasa. Now don't tell me I don't know who Vedavyasa is the sage, rishi, who did monumental work like producing the Mahabharata, of which Gita is a part, included Bhagavad Gita, is also the author of the Brahma Sutras, which teach you about the Supreme Brahman. Vedavyasa did many things. There is also one Vyasa who is supposed to have written a commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. We don't know the period, so I can't be sure. But yes, this is the great Vedavyasa. And his son was Sukha Deva. Now Sukha Deva was one of those people who, even when he was born, the moment he began to understand, I am in this world and this is the world, is supposed to have found the truth, but he is saying it still needed confirmation. So he went to Janaka. Janaka was the king of Videha, who was the father of Sita. And it is only when Janaka confirmed, yes, you are right, that Sukha Deva fully understood. And the wonderful scripture that we have to read and understand the mysteries of the divine beings is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam was taught by Sukha Deva to the great king Parikshit, who was a grandson of Arjuna. This is Sukha Deva. Shastras say that Sukha Deva was a Paramahamsa. When they caught him and said, we are going to give you the jenu, the sacred thread, he said, I am free, I don't want to be tied up. And went away from there. He was supposed to be wandering the earth all the time saying Narayana, Narayana, not like Narada. And Hari, Hari, and wandering the world without clothes. He is a Digambara. This is Sukha Deva for you. And they say that in the ancient texts there is a story that once, I am saying this because Sukha Deva is mentioned here, the great Vyasa, in whose seat the Shankaracharyas sit nowadays and say we are sitting on the Vyasa Pitha. Once it is said that some girls were having a bath in a pond in the forest. Suddenly they heard somebody coming, so they peeped and they saw that it was Vyasa, the great Vyasa. So immediately they said, oh, Vyasa is coming. And some of them went into the water deep so that only the head is seen. And some of them caught some clothes and wrapped themselves and waited, and when he came. But so Vyasa blessed them and went off. And he had just gone a little bit further when he heard a young voice saying, Hari, Hari. So he knew that his son Sukha Deva was coming, naked. He came, all the girls came out of the pond, they worshipped him and said, oh Sukha Deva, we are lucky to see you, no clothes on. Vyasa was listening to this and he looked and he said to himself, this is the difference between Sukha Deva and me. I am Vedavyasa, who compiled the Vedas, wrote the Mahabharata and so on, and the Brahma Sutras. The girls still differentiate. Here is my son Sukha Deva. They feel that he is their own. They have no problems with him. This is Sukha Deva. Most beautiful text which we have got today is the Srimad Bhagavat, which Sukha Deva teaches Parikshit in the Naimisaranya forest. So, just like you, this is Vishwamitra speaking, just like you, Sukha also arrived at the truth concerning existence after deep contemplation of the impermanence of this world. Yet, because it was self-acquired knowledge, he could not positively affirm to himself and say, this is the truth. Yet, of course, arrived at the stage of extreme and supreme dispassion. One day, this Sukha Deva approached his father Vedavyasa and asked him, Sir, how did this diversity of world creation come into being? How will it come to an end? Vedavyasa gave a detailed answer to this question. But Sukha Deva thought, all this I knew already, what is new in this? And was not impressed. Vedavyasa also sensed this and hence he said to Sukha Deva, my son, I know everything more than this, but There is a royal sage Janaka on this earth who knows more than me, so kindly approach him. One thing is clear, one can know the truth even if one is a king. One need not be a beggar to know the truth. Sukha Deva thereupon came to Janaka's palace. Informed by the palace guards of Sukha's arrival, Janaka ignored him for a week, while Sukha patiently waited outside. The next week, unfortunately there weren't many Janakas in the market, so he didn't say, no, this guy is making me weary, I'm going to the next Janaka. So he stayed. The next week, Janaka had Sukha brought into the palace and waited upon by dancers and musicians. Sukha was unmoved by all this. Then he was ushered into the royal presence and Janaka said, "You know the truth. What else shall I tell you now? This diversity arises on account of mental modifications, and it will cease when the modifications cease. Thus, when his self-knowledge was confirmed, Sukha attained peace and remained in nirvikalpa samadhi. Like Sukha, Rama too has gained the highest wisdom. The surest sign of a person of the highest wisdom is that he is unattracted by the pleasures of the world. For in him, even the subtle tendencies have ceased. When these tendencies are strong, there is bondage. When they have ceased, there is liberation. He is truly a liberated sage who by nature is not swayed by sense pleasure, without a motivation of fame and other incentives. And I pray that the sage Vasishtha should so instruct Rama that he will be confirmed with his wisdom, and we too may be inspired." Vasishtha said, "I shall surely accede to your request, O Rama, O Vishwamitra, and O Rama, I shall now impart to you the wisdom which was revealed to me by the divine creator Brahma himself. Rama, countless have been the universes that have come into being and that have been dissolved. In fact, even the countless universe that exists at this moment are impossible to conceive of. All this can immediately be realized in one's own heart, for these universes are the creations of the desires that arise in the heart, like castles built in the air. Neither the world of matter nor the modes of creation are truly real. Yet the living and the dead think and feel they are real. Ignorance of this truth keeps up the appearance." Vasishtha continued, "O Rama, even as water remains water, whether they are waves or no waves, whatever be the external appearance of the liberated sage, his wisdom remains unchanged. The difference is only in the eyes of the ignorant spectator. Therefore, O Rama, listen to what I am about to say, for this instruction is sure to remove the darkness of ignorance. In this world," since we are going to go into Vasishtha, good advice, "in this world, whatever is gained only by self-effort." What is Yoga Vasishtha? In this world, whatever is gained only by self-effort. Where failure is encountered, it is seen that there has been a slackness in the effort. This is obvious. What is called fate, O Rama, is complete fiction and is not seen. Self-effort, Rama, is that mental, verbal and physical action which is in accordance with the instructions of a holy person well versed in the scriptures. It is only by such effort that Indra became the king of heaven, that Brahma became the creator, and other deities earned their prizes. Self-effort is that of two categories, that of past births and that of this birth. The latter effectively counteracts the former. That means, if you had done some slackened your self-effort in the previous birth, if you believe in previous birth, and in this birth you want to apply full effort, then that takes care of what was before. That's what it means. Self-effort, Rama, is that mental and verbal and physical action which is accordance to the instructions of a person well versed in the scriptures. It is only by such effort that Indra became the king of heaven and Brahma became the creator and other deities earned them. Self-effort is of two categories, that of past birth and this birth. The latter effectively counteracts the former. Fate is none other than self-effort of a past incarnation. There is constant conflict between these two in this incarnation. That which is more powerful triumphs. Self-effort, which is not in accordance with the scriptures, is motivated by delusion. When there is obstruction in the fruit of self-effort, one should examine it to see if there is such deluded action. And if there is, it should be immediately corrected. There is no power greater than right action in the present. However, one should take recourse to self-effort, grinding one's teeth, and one should overcome evil by good and fate by present effort. The lazy man, human being, the lazy person is worse than a donkey. Vasishtha, I am not saying this. The lazy one is worse than a donkey. One should never yield to laziness but strive to attain liberation. Seeing that life is ebbing away every moment, one should not revel in the filth known as sense pleasures, as worms revel in pus. For one who says, Vasishtha again, not me. One who says, fate is directing me to do this, is brainless, and the goddess of fortune abandons him so. Hence, by self-effort, acquire wisdom and then realize that this self-effort is not without its own end in the direct realization of the truth. If this dreadful source of evil named laziness is not found on earth, who will ever be illiterate and poor? It is because laziness is found on earth that people live like animals, miserable and poverty-stricken. Valimki said, at this stage it was time for the evening prayers and the assembly broke up for the day, as it is going to do now. Evening is a time for meditation, prayer, sandhya vandanam, all these things. And if you think they can happen automatically without self-effort, you are laboring under an illusion. Since I am a civilized man, I can't call you donkeys, but in that case I might be a donkey myself. Donkeys are not bad things. They're wonderful. Have you seen a small donkey? Very nice, sweet fellow. The only problem is when he starts braying. Otherwise, he is very nice. So what Vasishtha said was that human beings are very sweet, like donkeys. So tomorrow, when we come in the morning session, we are going to see how Vasishtha is instructing Rama. And it is mostly two stories, one story to another, another story to another. But we had to do this in the beginning because this is how it is. This is Vasishtha's second day discourse. It is a little bit, I know, long drawn and doesn't promise any immediate award, but it's worth going through this. Questions on the mind and what is the mind and so on. Now before we stop, I want to give you a table of contents. I don't think there is one. Yeah. So the first part we deal with is called the Vairagya Prakaranam. Vairagya Prakarana means section dealing with dispassion. The second one is Mumukshu Vyavahara Prakaranam, which means the behavior of a true seeker. How does a true seeker behave? Who is a true seeker? In which there is the story of Sukha and self-effort. The next one is dealing with creation. Utpatti Prakarana. How the world and this mind has come into being, which is catching us all into its vicious cycle. There are some stories of various people. Then there is the Sthiti Prakaranam, dealing with existence, Sthiti. Then Upasama Prakaranam, dealing with dissolution. Then there is the last Nirvana Prakaranam, section dealing with liberation. Now we cannot jump, so we have to go slowly. And if it becomes too long-winded or boring, then I might shift occasionally to the different prakaranas. Anyway, in 10 days we cannot finish the yoga. Okay, thank you. Narayana Hari.